God is always speaking to us. He is always leaving us signs, hints, and moving us in directions that will work well with His plans. He reaches out to us, calls us out to fulfill our purposes in Him. Sometimes it can be difficult hearing Him or even seeing these signs, especially if we don't pay attention. There are a lot of reasons why we either never hear God's call or we refuse to answer it. We think we're too little. We think we're too young. We think we're too unimportant. We think we're too broken to be used by God. But God does not take glory from people who are already whole. Nah. God is glorified when the man or the woman whose call was an impossibility comes to God. That is why it's important that we pay attention to these signs, to give God glory. So what are the signs that show that we are called by God? Before we begin, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more. Now, let's get right to it. The first sign that you're called by God is something big and improbable has happened to you and you need to trust God. Throughout the Bible, we see history in terms of men and women who were called by God for His divine purposes. And God always got their attention in the most creative of ways. He used the burning bush to catch Moses' attention. He turned Saul blind so he could be healed and become Paul. He sent an angel Jacob's way and had him wrestle all through the night. He used a famine to call Joseph, and the list goes on and on. So God uses the seemingly mundane things in ways that we could not have planned to call us. So when these big improbable things, the burning bushes or the unexpected angelic visits happen, God is calling you to trust Him. He's showing you that these things could only happen because of Him. And by following your calling, you are trusting Him to take care of you regardless of anything that happens. Sign number 2. You repeatedly spot a need or vacuum and feel a sense of urgency. So one of the signs that God is calling or has called you is that you see and you will see a need that needs to be answered, a vacuum that needs to be filled. Maybe your local church needs a new music teacher and you're specially adept at music. Or the kids at the shelter never seem to have enough food to eat, and you've noticed that God could be calling you in this area. Look, it takes a discerning eye here to spot the things that others wouldn't see. It's no coincidence that a lot of Bible characters failed their purpose and came to God after they noticed that there was a vacuum that needed to be filled. Now, Moses' path towards being the man that God used started when he noticed how the Israelites were treated by the Egyptians. David's journey with God began when he was anointed by Samuel. When God rejected Saul as king and a figurative void was created. The book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 verses 10 explains this in detail. It further goes ahead in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 23 and continued to when there was a need for a tool in God's hand, Goliath. 1 Samuel chapter 17 verses 23. Being called by God will coincide with these moments of void in your community that line up with your skills. In these times, it's best to pray and ask God to show you the next step as you answer your calling. We hope you're enjoying the video so far. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one. The next sign that you're called to God is that you would seem especially competent at solving specific problems. When God is calling you, very often He gives you the gifts and the grace to do the things that He needs you to do. When God called Moses, He knew Moses had trouble speaking, so He sent Aaron with Moses. Aaron would speak God's words while Moses would be God's arm. Throughout the Bible and even today, we see this pattern repeat itself. Now, when God is calling you, He will give you those gifts that you need to be attentive to know it. So look at the journey you've been on. What are the things you know how to do? Do you know how to draw? Do you know how to cook? Do you know how to sing? Or, like me, are you a talker? But God is calling you through those. He gave you those gifts and the life that you've had to make it grow so that you can serve in His ministry. Now, this is a sign that He's calling you for a very particular type of ministry for Him. He has made you especially competent at solving problems in a specific area because He has a plan and you are a central cog in that plan. Now, here is a special point. When God is calling you, you experience a lot of resistance in an area. Being called by God is not always an easy journey. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it isn't. And that's because God has anointed you and He has called you for His purpose. The devil also takes notice, and from that moment, he sets things in motion to trip you up. Now, when God says, "Look at my son, he respects me so much," the devil responds, "That's because you've blessed him." And when God says, "Have you seen my daughter? She does not have a blemish," he responds, "Well, you've protected her. How can she be blemished?" Physically, this will manifest as a period of great success, followed by that of intense resistance. Do you have to read the Bible? Well, the devil will try to make something come up so you can't read your Bible. Do you want to go to church? Well, he'll remind you that you're not worthy and that you should not come into God's presence because of that. The devil will even use your friends and family to weaken your resolve to go after what God has called you to do. Even the most well-meaning family members can become unwitting tools. Now, Peter was used to rebuke Jesus when Jesus spoke about his death. Mark chapter 8 verses 32. Now, even though Peter meant well, the devil tried to work through him to distract Jesus from his mission. In these moments, it is crucial to understand that you've been called by God, and God will not abandon you or let you fall, and His plans and callings for you will always take effect. It's just a period of great stress, and you should reinforce the fact that the devil is trying to stop you from following God's will. And lastly, you will know that you are called by God when the journey ahead is clearly overwhelming. Sometimes God can call you on a journey that is totally unnerving. Now, this unnerving, uneasy feeling itself is a sign that you are called by God. Maybe you've never been able to speak in public and you suddenly have to fill in for a friend. Or you're clearly in a difficult financial situation and someone reaches out for financial help. Sometimes it's difficult to see the road ahead. But then, that's a sign that God is calling you to trust Him and let Him use you to give Him glory. In the Bible, we see people who are clearly overwhelmed by their journeys, who are weighed down by their past and clearly out of their depth, and God ends up using these people. The feeling of inadequacy for the road ahead is a call to trust God, to understand that His purposes are bigger than ours, and since He has called you, He will never fail you. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and share as well as subscribe. Tell us in the comment section below other signs that shows that you have been called by God. Until next time, have a blessed day. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.